Hello everyone, this is CA Keval Mota, and in this lecture we are going to revise the chapter of tax invoice, debit note, credit note, and e-way. Okay. So we will understand at what time these documents are to be issued and the significance of this document. The first one is tax invoice. Tax invoice has to be issued in terms of Section 31 read with Rule 46. As per the provisions, the tax invoice has to be issued while effecting taxable supplies of goods or services. Taxable supplies of goods or services. Okay, so there are few contents to be mentioned on the tax invoice. The basic contents are same for debit note, credit note, or any other kind of document. What are those few contents? Name of the recipient, name of the supplier, GST number, address, okay, place of supply, HSN number. Okay, so these are the common things which are to be mentioned on every tax invoice. In case of HSN, if your turnover is up to 1.5 CR, there is no requirement to mention HSN number. If your turnover is more than 1.5 CR, but it is less than 5 CR, then you have to mention 2-digit HSN. If it is more than 5 crore, then 4-digit HSN. If you are undertaking import and export, you have to mention 8-digit. While the invoice should contain invoice date as well. Okay. Now, what is the time limit to issue? Is written in section 13. Okay. For supply of goods, date of up to the date of renewal. So whenever you are renewing the goods, you have to issue invoice. And if the supply is not involving movement of goods at the time of delivery. If you are supplying service, then you have to issue within 30 days of provision of service. However, if you are a banking company, financial institution, NBFC or insurance company, you have to issue tax invoice within 45 days of provision of service. And if you are supplying goods for reasons other than by way of supply, you have to issue delivery challan. The tax invoice or delivery challan has to be issued in 3 copies. First one original for recipient, second duplicate for transporter, third one is a triplicate for supplier. Okay. However, when there is no transporter, then 2 copies only, original for recipient, duplicate for supplier. And in case of services, obviously there is no transporter involved, original for recipient, duplicate for supplier. Then in case of insurance company, banking company, financial institution, NBFC, they can issue a consolidated tax invoice at the end of each month. Okay, and they are not required to mention serial number or address of the recipient. Next is for effecting inter-branch transaction in case of banking company, insurance company, and telecom operator. Okay, they have to issue invoice before expiry of the quarter or at the time when this supply was recorded in the books of accounts. Next one, in case of GTA, there are few mandatory particulars to be mentioned. What are those? The name of consignor, consignee. Okay. The weight of the consignment, registration number of the vehicle, details of goods transported, origin and the destination of the goods, and GST number of the person who is liable to pay tax. Okay. If consignor is liable to pay tax, okay, in case consignor is a recipient of this transport service, consignor would be liable to pay tax under RCM, provided GTA has not opted for the option 12%. Then consignee also can be the recipient if consignee is the person liable for arranging the transport service, and if GTA has opted for 12% option, GTA is the person liable to pay tax. Okay, so this has to be mentioned on the tax invoice. Next one, passenger transport agency service. For example, railway ticket, bus ticket. In that case, the ticket itself would be called as invoice. Next one, if you are exporting goods or exporting service or supplying to SEZ. In that case, on every invoice, there should be one endorsement. There can be two cases. If you are having LUT, then you are not liable to levy tax on the invoice. Without tax, you can issue invoice. However, if you are not having LUT, you have to apply tax component on the invoice, but you are not required to collect that tax component. Okay. For example, 1,000 rupees taxable value, 180 was the GST component, okay, and you are not having LUT. How much you will recover from your recipient? Answer is only 1,000. You cannot recover 1,180. Why? Because this is a zero rated supply and you are eligible to claim refund. Okay, you are eligible to claim refund. And refund is only allowed when the incidence of tax is not passed. If you are collecting from the recipient this 180, then you are not eligible to obtain refund. Okay. It would be doctrine of unjust enrichment. And in case of exported goods, the country of destination. Next one is if you are issuing a tax invoice. If you are for example, you are a retailer, so the normal supplies are of rupees 10, rupees 20, rupees 30. So government says you are relaxed. Okay, you are relaxed. If the value of goods supplied is less than 200, then there is no requirement to issue tax invoice for every transaction. You can issue one consolidated tax invoice at the end of each day. But this benefit of rupees 200 is not applicable for cinematographic film agencies, that is the PVR cinema and multiplexes. In that case, this 200 is not available benefit. If your ticket price is rupees 150, then also you have to issue tax invoice. Next is revised tax invoice. In case of revised tax invoice, you have to issue the revised tax invoice for this period. Effective date of registration up to the date of grant of registration. For this period, you are not having GST number, but you are a taxable person. Okay, so you have to collect GST. You are eligible to collect GST from your recipient. But since you are not having GST number, how will you collect? So when date of grant of registration is there, that means the date on which you are obtaining GST number. The period starting from effective date of registration till the date of grant of registration, the supplies effected during this period, are to be issued a revised tax invoice within 30 days of becoming liable for registration. Within 1 month, really sorry, within 1 month from the date of grant of registration. For example, the effective date of registration was 1st October and actual date of registration is 25th October. So from 25th October, you have to calculate 1 month. It is 25th November. By 25th November, you have to issue revised tax invoices for this period. Okay. Next is bill of supply. Bill of supply is issued in two circumstances. One is when you are supplying exempt goods or exempt services, or you are a composition taxable person, or you are a person who is enjoying the benefit of section 10(2)(a), that is presumptive scheme. So you have to issue that. If you are supplying exempt plus taxable, then you have to issue invoice come bill of. Next is refund voucher. When refund voucher is to be issued, first you have to understand receipt voucher. Before understanding the refund voucher, you have to understand receipt voucher. Receipt voucher is to be issued when you are receiving advance. For example, today I am getting advance. I have to issue receipt voucher. However, by any circumstances, this supply did not take place. Did not take place. So in this case, I have to refund the money to my recipient who has paid me advance. So while refunding the amount of advance, I have to issue refund voucher. The tax which is paid by me on this advance to the government, it will be refunded to me on the basis of this refund voucher. Next is payment voucher. Okay. A payment voucher is to be issued in two cases. One when your supplies are taxable under RCM, okay, and they are purchased from an unregistered dealer or a registered dealer. So to be issued while making payment to unregistered person, 9(4) or 5(4). In case of promoter, okay, if promoter is purchasing cement from unregistered dealer, he has to pay tax under RCM. So while making payment to that cement supplier, that is unregistered person, he has to issue payment. Okay. Next one is when you are making payment to a person whose supplies are taxable under reverse charge as per 9(3) or 5(3), then you are required to issue payment voucher whether or not he is registered or unregistered. So even if you are taking services from a GTA who is registered, but you are going to pay tax under RC as per section 9(3). So you are required to a payment voucher while making payment to that supplier. Right? Clear? Okay. So in case of 9(4), unregistered person while making payment to unregistered person, payment voucher to be issued. In case of 9(3), even if he is a registered person or unregistered person, payment voucher is required to be issued. Receipt voucher we have already done. In receipt voucher, one more important point. Okay, if your nature of supply is not determined, whether it is intra or inter, then in that case you can consider it as an interstate. And if rate of tax is unknown, then you can consider it as a 18%. Next is self invoice. Self invoice is only to be issued when you are obtaining services from an unregistered person whose services or goods are taxable under 9(3) or 9(4) or 5(3) or 5. Only in case of unregistered person purchase. If registered person is selling you some service or supplying you some goods, in that case he is required to issue tax invoice and he will be mentioning that whether tax is payable under RCM, yes or no. So if you are purchasing, for example, GTA services, okay, and this GTA is unregistered person, but as per section 9(3), it is a specified service and recipient is going to pay tax. So while making payment, payment voucher to be issued. Okay. And when service is received, you have to issue self invoice. Self invoice means the recipient has to prepare invoice as if he is the person supplying that service. Okay. Supplier name would be the name of unregistered person, and recipient name would be the name of person who is availing the services. I hope this is clear. And in this case, consolidated tax invoice can be issued at the end of every month if the aggregate value of supplies is less than 5,000. If it is exceeding 5,000, then per invoice has to be issued. Invoice come bill of supply, we have already seen. Taxable as well as exempt supply. Invoice come bill of supply has to be. Next one, ISD invoice. ISD invoice is issued as per Rule 54. Rule 50. And in case of ISD invoice, he is going to distribute the credit relating to input service. Next is tax invoice or bill of supply to accompany the transport. The person who is carrying your consignment, that is transport, has to carry three things. One is invoice or delivery charge. Next is EA bill, very important. And nowadays e-invoice. Okay. E-invoice shall be generated. We will be learning in the few minutes. Okay. Or bill of supply, if it is there, bill of supply has to be carried by the transporter, that is person in charge of the. Next one, debit note and the credit note. Why credit note is issued? Whenever you are crediting the account of a person in your books of accounts, you have to issue credit. When you credit the person's account in GST, first of all, please make it very clear that supplier is only the person who has to issue debit note or credit note. Only supplier is going to issue debit note or credit note. No recipient will be issuing debit note or credit note. Is it clear? सप्लायर को ही सब कुछ इशू करना है, डेबिट नोट भी उसको ही इशू करना है, क्रेडिट। If the value of supply has to be reduced, then credit note has to be issued. If value of supply has to be increased, that is, for example, interest amount you have to recover from your receipt, then it has to be recovered by issuing debit. I hope this is clear. Then every credit note shall be linked to a invoice. And also important point, consolidated credit note can be issued for multiple returns at same time. So what is the time limit to issue? The time limit to issue credit note is the end of September month. Okay, so the credit note date should be earlier than 30th September. 30th September or earlier than 30th September. It cannot be up to 20th October. Please note down that it is not the due date. It is the September date. Okay. If it is 1st October, if it is 1st October, then the credit note cannot be adjusted. Output tax liability of supplier will not be reduced. Why? Because it is after September. You are receiving goods after September. Okay. In September of next month, next year. Sorry. For example, transaction is of 1920. Then the goods returned up to the month of September can be issued credit note. Okay. If goods are returned after the month of September, then credit note cannot be issued. However, a commercial credit note would be issued for books of accounts purpose. However, GST output tax liability will not be reduced on this account. Okay. Credit notes are to be issued in the three copies: original for recipient, duplicate for transporter, and triplicate for supplier. Okay. And credit note for services too. Now study. Debit note. First of all, very important point, there is no time limit to issue debit. Why? Because debit note enables government to collect GST. In debit note, you are increasing the value of supply. So whenever you are increasing the value of supply, you are going to give GST to the government. So whenever you are giving GST to the government is okay. गवर्नमेंट बोलता है चलेगा, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, जीएसटी देना है तो। पर जब भी आउटपुट टैक्स लायबिलिटी कम करने की बात आई, तभी आपको सिर्फ सितंबर तक ही मिलेगा। Now there are few cases in which debit note is issued. That is, if you have to recover some extra money more than original tax invoice, debit note should be linked to the original tax invoice as same as credit note. Debit note should contain the particulars of Rule 53. The particulars are very simple: name, address, GST number of supplier, recipient, and the place of supply, rate of tax, taxable value, tax amount, amount of tax, whatever it is. Next one, if debit note is issued under section 74, 129, 130, there should be endorsement containing ITC not admissible. Okay. 74 is for fraud cases, 129, 130 is for detention and confiscation of the vehicle and goods. Next is clarification in case of pharma sector. Let us understand this through an example. This circular is majorly focusing on a pharma sector. Pharma sector. Now, what happens in this sector? Let us understand this first. For example, I have purchased medicine grocery. You see the back side of the cover, you can see there is an expiry period of 3 years. Okay. Generally, the medicines are valid for 2 3 years. Okay, they last for very long period. Okay. However, if in these 3 years the medicine did not get sold, okay, what is the chain? First of all, see the chain. Manufacturer, there is a distributor, there is a stockist or a chemist, and then here it will be a retailer chemist, that is medical shop. This is the whole chain. For example, I have manufactured on 1st October 2020. Now this all transaction went and it reached to the medical on 31st October 2020. The expiry of the medicine is 2 years, for example. Expiry of medicines. Now the time limit to return these goods is already expired. Okay. For example, in this case, it was it expired on 1/10/2020. However, as per credit note section, that is section 34, up to how much time the goods shall be returned? Up to September of next financial year. Up to September of next financial year. Okay. So in this case, it was September 2021. But but these goods are expired on 1/10/2022. So what should be the treatment? What should be the treatment of these goods? So there are basically two options available. Option number one, to consider it as a return of goods. Okay. So this medical will be returning the goods to this stockist. This stockist will be returning goods to the distributor. Distributor will be returning the goods to the manufacturer. This chain. This is the chain. So in this case, if it is considered as the return of goods, the credit note will be issued. The credit note will be issued, but it would be a commercial note. It cannot. It cannot be a GST credit note. Okay. In our case, it cannot be a GST credit note. Why? Because the time limit is already expired. If it was within the time limit, then normal GST credit note would be issued, and the supplier's output tax liability would be reduced to that extent. Okay. This is the first option. Credit note will be issued by him. Okay. Stockist will issue a credit note to him because he has supplied the goods. But it would be a commercial credit note, not the GST credit note. Okay, it would be a commercial credit note. Because a stockist GST liability would not be reduced. Here, similarly here, the same goes to here. Now finally, goods are with whom? Manufacturer. Finally, goods are with manufacturer. Now this is a expired medicine. Okay. So as per Indian Drugs Act, okay, the name is something big, but as per Indian Drugs Act, these goods are to be destroyed by the manufacturer. Okay. Expired medicine has to be destroyed by this manufacturer. Okay. And you all know that whenever you are destroying the goods, section 17(5)(h) would be attracted, which says to reverse the input tax credit on the goods destroyed. Okay. So whenever this manufacturer has purchased the goods or manufactured the goods, okay, he has to ascertain the input tax rate on these goods and he has to reverse the input tax rate on these goods. Okay. Okay. This is the first option, that is return of goods. The second option is considering it as a fresh supply. Fresh supply means it will be deemed that medical has sold the goods to stockist. Even if he has returned the goods, it will be treated as sold goods. Okay. So if medical is selling the goods to stockist, then medical has to levy GST if he is a person registered in the GST. However, if he is not a person registered in the GST, he has to issue bill of supply and pay tax on this transaction. Clear? Similarly, when GST will be returning goods, it will be treated as fresh supply, heavy GST. Clear? Distributor returning the goods to manufacturer, he is returning the goods, but it will be treated as fresh supply. So GST will be levied. And accordingly, manufacturer is liable to reverse the goods, reverse the GST on goods destroyed. Okay, what GST he has to reverse? On purchase or on this transaction? Okay, original manufacturing or this transaction of distributor? Answer is manufacturer has to reverse the ITC on goods purchased as a fresh supply from distributor. I hope this is clear. Okay. So this GST has to be reversed and not the GST of original purchase. I hope this is clear. So these are basically two options available for pharmaceutical. Next topic which we are going to cover is e-label. Important topic from exam perspective. The questions are frequently asked on this e-label. Now we are on the charts. E-label is a document issued by carrier having details of shipment of consignment. Now please understand what is the meaning of e-label. E-label is a document to track the movement of goods. And what is this document? This document is for tracking movement of goods. Okay, irrespective of the nature of transaction, whether it is intra or inter, it is irrelevant. It is irrelevant. Okay, the movement of goods is relevant for the purpose of e-label. Okay. Goods are moving from which state or which point to which point. To track this movement, e-label has to be e-label is e-label concept has been introduced. So this concept is in section 68 of CGST Act, read with rule 138, 138, 138A, 138B, 138. These are a few rules in which e-label is contained. E-label किसको बनाना है? Who is the person liable to generate e-label? The answer is the person who is causing the movement of goods. Okay. For example, if I am causing the movement of goods, I have to generate e-label. Okay. I have to generate e-label. So this e-label can be prepared or can be generated on the basis of documents. Okay. Which are those documents? It can be tax invoice, it can be bill of supply, it can be delivery challan. Okay. It can be any other document. Okay. So section 68 mandates to generate e-label, prescribed documents, and the prescribed documents are mentioned in rule 138. So when e-label has to be generated, the basic question, whether it is to be generated on all transactions or there are some exemptions or there is some monetary limit up to which e-label is not to be generated. So answer is contained in rule 138. As per rule 138, if the consignment value is exceeding rupees 50,000, e-label has to be generated. If consignment value is exceeding rupees 50,000, e-label has to be generated. When it has to be generated? In relation to supply. For example, you are supplying goods, e-label to be generated. If you are just sending the goods to job worker, e-label has to be generated. If you are purchasing from unregistered person, the registered person will be generating e-label for these transactions. I hope this is clear. So what is the meaning of consignment value? What is the meaning of consignment value? Consignment value means the invoice value. Consignment value means invoice value. The invoice value, it means including GST amount. GST, very important. Okay. However, this invoice value, if it is containing any kind of exempt supplies, it shall be excluded from this. In simple words, taxable values. Taxable values mean the value of taxable supplies per plus GST component will be the total consignment. If your consignment value is more than 50,000, then e-way bill has to be generated. Now, as far as CA final syllabus is concerned, in our case, interstate movement is written. Okay. Intrastate movements are not governed in our syllabus. Why? Because in case of intrastate movement, this 50,000 is much more higher. For example, in case of Maharashtra, it is 1 lakh rupees, and in case of Bihar, it may be 2 lakh rupees. Okay, no one knows. So for effecting interstate transaction, okay, I am repeating it once again. We are learning CGST Act and CGST rules. So we are only concerned with interstate transaction. It does not mean that in case of intrastate transaction, e-way bill is not required. Okay, e-way bill is still required, but there are some different monetary limits. Consignment value definition is clear. Other than supply is job work clear. Now there are few exceptions to this 50,000 monetary value. What are those exceptions? What the exception means? Exception means irrespective of the value of consignment, e-way bill has to be generated. Which are those two scenarios? First one, when the goods are sent to job worker. When the goods are sent to job worker, interstate, again interstate. For intrastate, you have to check SGST rules, which are not in the syllabus. In case of job worker movement, e-way bill shall be generated irrespective of the value of. Next one is whenever a handicraft goods are sent by a person who is exempted to obtain registration, the e-way bill shall be generated irrespective of the value of consignment. The question of the students arises that if he is exempted from obtaining GST registration, how he will be issuing e-way bill? Answer is there is no requirement of registration in e-way bill. Okay. Registration and e-way bill are both different. Okay. If you are unregistered, your transporter will generate e-way bill. If transporter is unregistered, he can still enroll for e-way bill and he has to generate. Yeah. Okay. So there is no requirement to be registered person to issue e-way bill. Even an unregistered person with the enrollment ID can be person liable to issue e-way bill. Okay. Next one. In case of transportation of goods by aircraft and railways, e-way bill has to be generated by supplier or recipient and not transporter. Normally, supplier can generate, recipient can generate, transporter can generate. But in case of aircraft and railways, only supplier or recipient has to generate. Transporter cannot generate e-way bill. Transporter will not generate e-way bill. Next one, e-way bill generated in one state will be valid in another states as well. Okay. Next one is bill to ship to model. In case of bill to ship to model, I have already clarified you the transaction in place of supply chapter. You can refer those videos. In bill to ship to model, there are two transactions taking place. One is between supplier and third person, and another is between third person and the recipient. Okay. So movement of goods is from supplier to recipient. Okay. Let us come on the whiteboard first. The transaction. For example, A, B, and C. A is a third person, B is a supplier, and C is a recipient. The movement of goods is taking place from B to C. Okay, but invoice for this transaction is issued to A. So EA bill uh, shall be generated on the location of A or C. Answer is location of C. Why? Because the movement of goods is from B to C, not from B to A. Okay, even if invoice is issued by B to A, the movement of goods is from B to C. Okay. So in case of e-way bill, when you are generating from e-way bill portal, there is an option that is bill to and ship to. Accordingly, one e-way bill has to be issued. Only one e-way bill. Even if there are two transactions taking place, only one e-way bill has to be issued. Let's come to the charts once again. Now, as far as e-way bill is concerned, e-way bill has to be issued. E-way bill is generated in EWB01. Okay, and in EWB01 there are two parts, Part A and Part B. In part A, there are recipient details, that is GST number of recipient, days of supply, taxable value, tax amount, HSN number, whatever it is. Okay. This is a part A. And part B is a vehicle details. Part B means vehicle details. In which vehicle goods are being transported. So part B is a vehicle details. Okay. In certain cases, part B is not required to be filled. I'm repeating it once again. Part B is not required to be filled. Part A is mandatorily to be filled. What are those cases? Understand? This third point will be explaining that. Let us see the notes first one, first bullet. EV bill can be generated by supplier, recipient, transporter. We have already seen it. Where multiple consignments are intended to be transported in one conveyance. Okay. For example, there are 5 parties. पांचों पार्टी का वो गुड्स एक ट्रांसपोर्ट में लेके जा रहा है. There are 5 different EV bills. So the transporter can generate one EV bill on the basis of 5 EV bills. Okay. That one EV bill will be called as consolidated EV bill, and it has to be generated in EWB 0. So the primary condition is that there should be EV bill to generate consolidated EV bill. Okay. On the basis of individual EV bills, consolidated EV bill has to be. Part A shall be always filled. Part A shall be always filled unless EV bill is not applicable. Okay. जब भी EV bill applicable है, EV bill का provisions applicable है, part A भरना ही पड़ेगा irrespective of the distance travel. Okay. जब तक EV bill applicable है, part A भरना ही है. समझ के रहना ये बात. अगर EV bill applicable है, part A भरना ही पड़ेगा. ठीक है. Exemption जो 50 किलोमीटर और 10 किलोमीटर वाला है, सॉरी 20 किलोमीटर वाला है, जो अपना वेमेंट वाला, दैट इज फॉर पार्ट ए. क्लियर. एंड जो अपना पार्ट बी है, उसके लिए जो एक एग्जामेशन आया था 50 किलोमीटर वाला, इज ओनली फॉर पार्ट बी. नाउ व्हाट इज दिस एक्सेप्शन ऑफ 20 किलोमीटर? इफ आई एम अ कंसाइनर, आई हैव टू वे मतलब वजन करना, वे माय गुड्स. ओके. So my transport vehicle went up to Wayment Bridge. Okay. And the distance between this is less than 20 kilometers. Then for this moment, I am not required to generate EV bill. It means part A is not to be filled, and if part A is not applicable, then part B is also not applicable. But vice versa situation is not possible. If part B is applicable, then part A is automatically applicable. If part A is not applicable, then part B is not to be filled. Part B is not to be filled in these two cases. First one, the distance between consigner to transporter, not consigner consignee. Please mark these words. Very important words. Consigner to transporter. Okay. Consigner to transporter is less than 50 kilometers. For example, I am sending the goods to transporter, and this transporter will be sending the goods to consignee. Okay. So the distance between my location and transporter's location is less than 50. Then I am not required to fill part B, but part A I have to fill. Part A has to be filled mandatorily. Next one, if goods are transferred from one conveyance to another conveyance. Okay. मैंने रास्ते में conveyance change किया. Okay. And the distance between the transporter to the consignee is less than 50 किलोमीटर. ध्यान देना. मैंने रास्ते के बीच में conveyance change किया. मेरा conveyance खराब हो गया, मैंने change किया. And the distance between the change the conveyance, that is transporter, and consignee is less than 50 किलोमीटर. Then part B is not to be updated. पार्ट भी भरने की जरूरत नहीं है. जो आपका ओरिजिनल पार्ट भी चलते आ रहा है उसको चला सकते हो. नेक्स्ट, इफ कंसाइनर फेल्स टू जनरेट EV bill, transporter has to generate, other than railway and vessel. Railway air and vessel. Next one, validity of EV bill. Very important. Validity means jaan. The life of EV bill is called as validity. As invoice is valid for lifelong, but EV bill is not valid for lifelong. EV bill has certain validity. Okay. So the validity of EV bill is 1 day. The distance to be covered is 100 किलोमीटर. ओके. अगर आपको 100 किलोमीटर तक का डिस्टेंस तय करना है, ट्रैवल करना है, तो वैलिडिटी इज 1 day. However, in case of over-dimensional cargo, that is the huge vehicles, the the distance is 20 kilometers. It means they have ample time to travel. Okay. For example, if over-dimensional cargo has to travel 100 kilometers, the EVA will be valid for 5 days. Clear? Similarly, in case of multimodal shipment, it requires time. Okay, multimodal shipments wherein at least one leg involves supply by ship, that is transport by ship. In this case, 20 kilometers for 20 kilometers 1 day. For example, in case of multimodal shipment, it has to travel 100 kilometers. So it is a possibility that ship can take time to travel. Okay, the availability has to be seen, and there are multi modes. For example, I am sending the goods here from my factory to some another location, warehouse by truck. From that truck, it will be sent in some rickshaw. From that rickshaw, it will be sent in aircraft. From that aircraft, it will be sent in vessel. Okay, so this is the multimodal shipment model. So in case of multimodal shipment, if the distance is 20 kilometer, the EVA will valid for 1 day. Similarly, if distance is of 100 kilometers, then EVA will be valid for 5 days. Okay, validity will be increased if the distance is reduced. I hope this is clear. It is a inverse proportion. And for every other 100 kilometer, one additional day. For example, normal scenario, not multimodal nor over dimensional. If I have to travel 1500 kilometers, for example, Mumbai to Delhi is 1500 kilometers. So will I be reaching in 1 day? Answer is no. So government has given 15 days to reach. Okay, 1500 divided by 100. So it would be 15. So in 15 days, my EVA bill validity will be 0. My EVA bill is valid only for 15 days. Now this is where the goods are not transported as specified. The EVA bill can be cancelled within 24 hours of generation. Next is the details of EVA bill will be made available to supplier, recipient, and these things. And the recipient has to accept or reject his communication. Okay, means if it is communicated that someone has raised EVA bill, someone has generated EVA bills against your GST number, the recipient has to accept or reject. Because in some cases, फॉर एग्जाम्पल मुझे खुन्नस है किसी के ऊपर, मैं फ्रॉडलेंट गुड्स भेज सकता हूँ ना उसको. तो रिसिपेंट को ऑप्शन दिया है कि आपको एक्सेप्ट करना है तो आप एक्सेप्ट करो या तो रिजेक्ट करो. बट कितने टाइम में आपको एक्सेप्ट या रिजेक्ट करना है? 72 hours of generation or time of delivery, whichever is earlier. If you fail to accept within this time limit, it will be deemed acceptance. Next is EV bill cannot be generated if returns for 2 consecutive periods have not been filed. If I am monthly filer, okay, then I have to file the returns for 2 previous months. Okay, then only I can generate EV bill. If I have not filed returns for 2 consecutive periods, then I am not eligible to generate EV bill. It would be a offense which is penalized under section 122. Next one, a person other than composition person who has not furnished a statement of outward supplies for 2 months or 2 quarters, as the case may be. Okay. So EV bill will be blocked if you are a person who is not filing returns for 2 consecutive periods. In case of composition scheme, CMP 08 has to be CMP 08. That is, a statement has to be filed. Okay. If you have not filed a CMP 08 for 2 consecutive quarters, then you are not eligible to generate EV bill. Offense committed by you. Next one, e-invoicing and QR code. The last provisions of this chapter, e-invoicing and QR code. So what is e-invoicing? Very important point. E-invoicing means invoices generated on e-invoice schema basis. Okay, e-invoice schema. So what is e-invoice schema? Okay, there is one rule in that it is mentioned that e-invoice means a type of invoice, okay, which is issued or which is generated through GST portal. GST पोर्टल पर ये इनवॉइसिंग बनेगा. ठीक है. अभी इसमें लोगों का कंफ्यूजन क्या आता है कि हमें क्या डबल मेहनत करना पड़ेगा, एक बार टैली से भी इनवॉइस बनाया फिर पोर्टल से भी बनाना पड़ेगा क्या? तो आंसर इज नो. आपको पोर्टल से वापस से अलग से बनाने की कोई जरूरत नहीं. ऑलरेडी जो टैली सॉफ्टवेयर आप यूज कर रहे हो, ठीक है, टैली, ERP और SAP, or any other software you are using, this software will be working for you. These softwares will be working for you to have to issue normal इनवॉइस. आपको नॉर्मल इनवॉइस जैसे बनाते हो ना वैसे ही बनाना है. अब ये इनवॉइस का जो डिटेल्स है ये ई इनवॉइस जीएसटी पोर्टल पर लेके जाएगा. ठीक है, ई इनवॉइस जीएसटी, ई इनवॉइस वन gst.gov.in. दिस इज द पोर्टल नेम. The contents of this invoice will be pushed to this e-invoice gst.gov.com. The thing which this portal is going to do is this thing. सबसे पहला काम ये करेगा, IRN obtain करेगा. IRN means invoice reference number. Invoice reference number is unique for each and every invoice. The basic purpose of e-invoicing is to curb fake invoices. फेक इनवॉइस को कम करना है. एंड जैसे ही ई इनवॉइस बन जाएगा जीएसटीआर वन में ऑटोमेटिकली चला जाएगा. ठीक है, डबल मेहनत बच गई. ई इनवॉइस बन जाएगा तो ई बिल अपने आप बन जाएगा, डबल मेहनत वापस से बच गई. IRN will be issued. Okay, IRN is a unique number issued by GST portal. Okay. Issued by GST portal. What does this e-invoicing site will do? It will generate a QR code. Okay, a QR code. On scanning of this QR code, the details of invoice would be visible. Okay, so this QR code would be generated if it is a invoice. Next one, it will be digitally signed. A digitally signed. Yeah. So all invoices are digitally signed. Now, what is the funda behind e-invoicing? E-invoicing लाने का main purpose क्या है? The purpose are very simple. Number one, to curb fake invoices. Curb fake invoices. Whenever e-invoice is issued, government will come to know who has issued invoice, against whom the invoice has been issued. Okay, तो डिटेल्स गवर्नमेंट पोर्टल तक ऑन रियल टाइम बेसिस जा रही है. आज इन्वॉइस किया आज ही पता चलेगी. नहीं तो क्या होता था, आज मैंने इन्वॉइस शो किया, सप्लाई किया, देन मैंने बिल इधर से डिलीट कर दिया. ओके, सो उसमें क्या होता था कि रिसिपेंट आईटीसी ले लेता था एंड मैं यहाँ पर कैंसिल कर दिया उस बिल को. तो ये फेक इन्वॉइसेस का जो कंसेप्ट है वो यहाँ पर एप्लीकेबल नहीं होगा. ई इन्वॉइस में फेक इन्वॉइस का ट्रांजेक्शन बहुत कम हो जाएगा. नेक्स्ट इज ऑटो पॉपुलेशन ऑफ जीएसटीआर वन. जीएसटीआर वन में क्या होता है, सेल्स का डिटेल्स. जैसे ही आप इनवॉइस बनाओगे ई इनवॉइसेस, सेल का डिटेल ऑटोमेटिकली जाएगा. जीएसटीआर वन में सेल ऑटोमेटिकली चले जाएगा. थर्ड वन इज जीएसटीआर थ्री बी में भी ऑटो पॉपुलेटेड फिगर चला जाएगा. जीएसटीआर थ्री बी में ऑटो पॉपुलेटेड फिगर चला जाएगा. Government will come to know that who is the recipient and whether he is eligible or not for availing ITC. ठीक है, वो ई इनवॉइस के बेसिस पे अगर आईटीसी ले रहे हैं तो इट इज वेल एंड गुड. ओके, अगर ई इनवॉइस नहीं है उसके पास, ठीक है, इफ यू आर अ पर्सन लायबल फॉर ई इनवॉइस एंड द रिसिपिएंट इज नॉट हैविंग ई इनवॉइस, ओके, इट मींस ही इज अवेलिंग फेक आईटीसी, देन इन दैट केस गवर्नमेंट कैन डिनाई द आईटीसी. so so the person who are required to issue invoice are in the radar of government. Okay, they cannot do any kind of mischief with the system. अब किन लोगों को ई इनवॉइस बनाना है, ठीक है, गवर्नमेंट gets information on real time basis. Now who are the person who are required to issue e invoice? So e invoice has to be issued by a person who is registered under GST first of all, and the aggregate turnover in any of this preceding financial year exceeds rupees 500 crore. Okay. Exceeds rupees 500 crore. कौन से सालों में? 17-18 और 18-19 और 19-20. कोई भी सालों आफ्टर 17-18 कोई भी सालों में अगर आपका टर्नओवर 500 CR के ऊपर है, then you are required to issue e-invoice with effect from 1st October 2020. This date was further extended to 1st January 2021. Then it got further extended. Okay. अभी वो एप्लीकेबल हुआ है फॉर 100 करोड़. ठीक है, फ्रॉम 1st January 2021 is applicable for all those person whose aggregate turnover was more than 100 CR in any of this financial year from 17-18. What is not applicable for you? For you, you have to remember 500 CR with effect from 1st October 2020. अब ई इनवॉइस कौन से केसेस में इशू करना है, ठीक है, ऑन विच ट्रांजेक्शन आई हैव टू इशू. द आंसर इज व्हेन यू आर इफेक्टिंग बी टू बी सप्लाई. ध्यान देना, बी टू बी means if your recipient is registered, you have to issue invoice. Next one is when you are exporting goods or exporting services, then in that case you have to issue a invoice. I hope this is clear. B2B and exports. On certain persons, this is not applicable. Who are those? Insurance, banking company, financial institution or NBFC. CTA. Next one is passenger transportation service. Next one is that cinematographic film producers. Okay. And SEZ units. Okay. SEZ developers is not there. For SEZ units, it is not applicable. For SEZ developers, it is applicable. Next is QR code. So QR code, who has to generate QR code on the invoice? Okay. Those persons whose aggregate turnover is exceeding rupees 500 CR, they have to issue a invoice with a QR code. On which transaction they have to issue a QR code? Answer is B2C supplies. Which is supplies? B2C supplies. There are some person who are not liable to issue the invoice with a QR code. Who are those? Insurer, banking company, NBFC, financial institution, including non-banking financial institution. Next is GTA, passenger transportation service, cinematographic, and this one is extra. Okay. That is non-resident OIDAR service provider. Okay. These persons are not required to issue invoice with a QR code. I hope this is clear. So here we end with this chapter. I don't think the revision is required for this chapter. Here we end with the. Thank you very much.